So yeah, it's a game called Hollow Knight Silk Song, and I guess this is like the newest version that dropped like last year, I guess. And it's got a cool little story behind it too. So we're gonna watch this video and see what it's about. And if I like it, I'm probably gonna get it because I already kind of like it from what I've seen already. But I just want to like really see what it's about, and then we can get into it for real. So we could do that right quick. How two developers turn 57,000 into millions. I don't know why he put the exact amount, but all right, whatever. They do it.
My best friend quit his full-time job to chase his dream and make a fully-fledged video game. Today, he just released the trailer and it looks beyond amazing.
Okay.
That post was from November 2015. Team Cherry had just dropped the Ferocious Foes trailer. Within days, it reached the front page of Reddit Gaming, pulling thousands of upvotes and carrying the project well beyond its small Kickstarter community. Less than a year later, the trailer had climbed towards 1 million views. And just 1 year after that, Team Cherry would release one of the most beloved indie games of all time, Hollow Knight. But their story doesn't truly begin here, because this isn't a tale of overnight success. It's the story of two unknown developers chasing a dream and a failed game jam. A strange, unpredictable journey that would take them from one of the greatest indie success stories into one of the longest, most meme-fueled waits gaming has ever seen.
Okay.
August 23rd, 2013. It all began with a game jam. Ludum Dare, the oldest of its kind, is a game jam competition where developers are given a theme and just 48 hours to create a game. No massive team.
You know, once upon a time, like, I was, like, in the game making, like, hobby. Like, if niggas don't know, like, back in the day, there was this, like, software called Game Maker. And, like, that was, like, back when I was in, like, elementary school, too. I used to, like, try to make games and shit. You know, it was fun to me. So shit like this be, like, interesting.
No big budgets, just creativity under pressure, with the finished games judged by fellow developers. Over the years, Ludum Dare produced more than a few legends. Marcus Notch Pearson first tested his ideas here before creating Minecraft. Sebastian Bernard, better known today from Deep Night Games, became the mind behind Dead Cells, winning the competition not once, not twice, but 3 times. For the 27th edition in August 2013, the theme was titled 10 Seconds. That jam would be won by Andrew Shoedice, who years later became known for the indie hit Tunic.
Hold up. Let me like move in a better position. Should I be on the right? Or should I just be like down here? I don't like where my sub goal at. Move that up here. So. Alright, come on.
But buried far lower on the list, at entry 126, was something far more important. A tiny game by Team Cherry, titled Hungry Night. The description read simply, a challenging action game. It's hard, but you can do it. Be brave. It was a top-down Flash prototype where you controlled a cloaked, bug-like knight forced to kill other bugs and collect cherries every 10 seconds, or die.
Like, this looks like some shit I would play back in the day, man, with the guys when they spent the night at my crib for the weekend. Man, like, bro, my niggas know, bro.
Ratings were mixed, with only graphics and mood standing out, though a few saw promise. Gameplay-wise, it's not terribly deep or fancy, but the animation makes both attacking and dashing so satisfying. This is still lots of fun. This is really great. I would love to see how the game would evolve if you kept working on it after the jam. Behind that little prototype were 3 friends. Artist Ari Gibson.
I don't know if I'm gonna finish this video. I don't know. We might watch like a couple videos. Or dance between a couple videos. So I don't want to set the expectation that we're gonna watch all of this. But we might though.
And designer William Palin, the future co-founders of the studio proper. Team Cherry. Alongside them was Rowan Fraser, a collaborator who helped him out in those first jams. Ari was a visual artist, owning a small animation company and known for hauntingly beautiful short animations like Sometimes with the Stars.
There's a reaction to 2D, there's a much more primal reaction to 2D, I think, because it's so much closer to drawings, which is something that everyone does as a child and everyone can relate to. And there's something about watching drawings move that has a soul to it that 3D never will.
William, meanwhile, had been building small browser games as a hobby on Newgrounds, a hub for small indie titles, quirky experiments like Lulanda and Return to Booty Grotto. Together, they weren't chasing money or fame, they just wanted to build something fun. And with Hungry Night, the earliest seeds of what would become Hollow Knight were planted. By April 2014, the team entered another jam. This one had the theme Beneath the Surface. They missed the 48-hour deadline, but the idea stuck. We missed the deadline for the jam, but we kept talking about what sort of game we could make that would fit. We thought of the little insect knight, exploring a deep old kingdom beneath the surface of the world, and everything kinda snowballed from there. It was the perfect setup for a Metroidvania adventure, one where the main character wasn't just a silent knight, but a whole decaying maze-like kingdom. Hallow Nest. With a failed jam entry and even a 1-star Newgrounds rating on Hungry Night, Team Cherry refused to give up. In fact, their journey was only just beginning.
Okay.
On November 15, 2014, Team Cherry finally revealed their dream project to the world. A 36-second teaser, a simple description. What will you find in the dark? Power, wealth, glory, all waits below. Hollow Knight is due to be released mid-2015. It was ambitious, maybe too ambitious. But the teaser already looks like a natural evolution of their Hungry Night prototype, only now it was deeper, darker, with characters, exploration and the promise of an entire world beneath the surface. Just days later, on November 19, Team Cherry launched their Kickstarter campaign, setting a modest goal of 35,000 Australian dollars. The pitch, straightforward and to the point. A challenging, beautiful and mysterious 2D adventure through a surreal world of insects and heroes. At this stage, what Team Cherry had was a proof of concept, a solid foundation, but they needed time, funding, and a community willing to believe them. And they weren't alone. By 2014, the indie scene was exploding. Gaming Kickstarter was still riding high on the momentum of Shovel Knight, Hyper Light Drifter, and countless others. Small teams and solo devs were everywhere, each hoping to fund their passion project into a functional game. And alongside this crowdfunding boom, 2D platforming and action games were having their own revival. Fez, Mark of the Ninja, Guacamelee, Super Meat Boy and others had proven that 2D games and Metroidvanias were back in fashion. And while Kickstarter was full of bold promises and more than a few scams, Hollow Knight immediately stood out. The art style directly scanned from Ari Gibson's hand-drawn sketches gave the game a haunting storybook look. Gamers were in.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
Within 24 hours, the project had already secured 10% of its funding. 2 days later, Hollow Knight was live on Steam Greenlight, the now defunct platform where fans could vote on which indie games deserved a spot on Steam. And by November 21, it had been chosen as the Kickstarter staff pick, driving even more momentum. Stretch goals pushed the campaign up to $85,000, promising everything from boss expansions to 2 new playable characters, Hornet and Zode. But success wasn't guaranteed. With only 4 days left, Hollow Knight was still short of its target. Failure seemed imminent, yet so close to funding.
Alright, cool. So this is just a little like a optional mini boss part through the game. So
don't even necessarily have to encounter it.
And we've reduced his health a little bit now
So he
because of our failures on previous attempts.
But hope wasn't lost. Ari and William's transparency and authenticity pulled more people in as the campaign neared its final days, even releasing videos of themselves showcasing gameplay in Hollow Knight's earliest area, the Forgotten Crossroads. These early builds were rough, clunky, and held together in stencil, very basic to the engine, and yet you could see the potential. Those familiar with Hollow Knight today would notice peculiar details, only 3 lives, no healing system, and Ari Gibson dying over and over again on camera. But beneath all of that, the core ideas were already there: the movement, the unrelenting difficulty, and of course, the atmosphere that would one day define the series. As Palin would explain, their initial goal was simple. We wanted players to feel totally in control of their character at all times, so our model for movement was the Mega Man and Mega Man X series. Any hit they take or mistake they make could have been avoided right up until the last second. It's a principle we tried to roll out through the rest of the game. It wasn't even polished, but it was enough to prove what 3 developers were capable of.
Oh no!
That's right. Look,
Speaking of repeat
you just
failures.
play on. Right, don't apologize. Just play. Just play. All right, here we go.
And it worked. By the end of the campaign, Hollow Knight had raised $57,000 from 2,158 backers. A success, but in hindsight, quite a small sum when compared to similar projects such as Shovel Knight or Hyper Light Drifter in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. But many stretch goals were met, including the second playable character, Hornet, and even a Wii U port. For Ari and William, this was especially meaningful. The Wii U wasn't just another platform, it was the spiritual home of the Nintendo games that were inspiring Hollow Knight.
Back Xanadu or Far Xanadu and like Zelda 2. A lot of old NES games that because the core of Hollow Knight is kind of like simply controlled, you know, like a really simple core, but just like, and then builds up on. Stuff like maybe Mega Man for the controls, and then obviously stuff like, Metroid, Castlevania, maybe a bit of Dark Souls in there as well. Yeah, that type of stuff, you know, we've stolen a lot of ideas.
With that success, the scope of the game grew massively. Despite its simplicity, development shifted over from stencil to Unity Engine.
Give you a few nice, easy bugs to smash out with your sword, as well as some bits and pieces to play with, like all these sort of breakable terrain and grass that we've added in. Using the new engine.
Early collaborator and artist Rohan Fraser stepped away, leaving Ari and William to carry the vision forward. Soon joined by programmer David Kazi, with Matt Griffin later handling PR and community. Not long after, composer Christopher Larkin came on board, crafting the atmospheric score that would become one of Hollow Knight's defining features.
I've been writing for games for about 4 years or so now. I started off just doing some jobs for free. I met some people at game jams. My very first game was actually one by myself when I was in my teen years, about 13 years old. I was making a platformer called Blue Goopy.
That was the team. Beta builds rolled out to backers, spirits were high, everything seemed to be on track. But there was a problem.
What was the problem?
Money.
You've all obviously stepped away from full-time jobs and that type of thing to take on Hollow Knight full-time. Do you have any advice for anyone who's perhaps thinking about doing indie games, about getting into it and stepping from perhaps the hobby to the more serious side in terms of getting their games out there?
Yeah, I know. Have a girlfriend that'll like basically pay for everything, I guess.
The Kickstarter had funded their game, yes, but not nearly enough to sustain a 3 to 4 person team for years. Outsourcing work like voice acting, translations, and other minor assets piled on even more costs. Team Cherry had to keep things lean. It was indie development at its most scrappy. Ari and William had to live off leftover triangle sandwiches and sheer determination. As Ari later recalled, My dad would sometimes pop up and give me $20. I would be like, oh, I'm having coffee today. It wasn't glamorous, but it was survival, and somehow it was enough.
I get that.
By November 2015, they released a new trailer, Ferocious Foes. When it hit Reddit, the famed post quickly gained traction, reaching beyond their Kickstarter community. It was just what they needed. But not everyone was convinced. To some, it looked like just another indie side-scroller in a market already flooded with them. A few commenters were skeptical, dismissing it outright. But compared to the earliest prototypes, the game had transformed. It was faster, smoother, and far more atmospheric, showing just how much Hollow Knight had evolved in only a year. On YouTube, reactions were overwhelmingly positive, praising the fluid combat and striking art style. He quit his job and made this. I think the right decision was made. This is looking like a day one buy for me. While their early videos would only hit a few thousand views, they were now in the hundreds of thousands. Even the wider gaming press started to take notice.
And we've had heaps of people, like here and at other conventions, who've been like, oh yeah, like I never really play this type of game, but you know, I really wanted to come and take a look. It's got like that Tim Burton or Gothic or like vibe to it, that type of thing.
But as the scope ballooned and the tiny team kept on building, delays became inevitable. The Wii U, the console they had promised to support, was dead, and this version was officially cancelled, replaced instead with a future Switch port. But that wasn't the only setback. One of the most exciting promises from the Kickstarter, a second playable character, quietly disappeared during development, and many of Team Cherry's early ambitions had to be scaled back. Forest of Bone, a lava-based area, was completely scrapped. But even then, what started as a little prototype and then a proof of concept had grown into a massive interconnected 2D world. February 24th, 2017, the date was set for release. Ari's art, once just rough sketches and dim caverns of stone and fossils, had transformed into a living, breathing canvas. Every frame, character, set piece, designed with intent. What began as a small browser Flash project from a weekend jam had become something far greater, a piece of art that would soon capture millions and cement itself as one of the most beloved indie success stories of all time.
Hollow Knight is a fantastic experience and a contender to be my favorite game of the year.
I think that I can say without a doubt that Hollow Knight has secured the spot of my favorite Metroidvania title ever.
It's a mysterious, depressing, dark game with hope, beauty, heartbreak, and majesty to it, all the same. It has times to make you sad, times to make you think, and it just so happens to be an incredibly fun game, too.
Hollow Knight didn't reinvent the wheel, it stitched together the best ideas of the classics into something greater. A brutally challenging, meticulously polished Metroidvania that felt timeless. Players weren't told where to go, they were set loose, which often meant hours of wandering, backtracking, and dead ends, until discovery struck, a hidden shortcut, a new ability, or the realization that you were never lost, just learning the language of Hollow Nest. Movement and combat carried that same philosophy. Every dash, every strike had weight. The frustration of platforming puzzles, the precision demanded by bosses, it all pushed players to slow down, to observe, to improve, to an absurd skill ceiling.
Tell me that shit don't look fire.
Holy shit.
And the world itself told its story in silence. Crumbling architecture, forgotten corpses, tiny background details, enough to inspire entire communities to spend hours debating lore and hidden meaning.
When it became clear that the Hollow Knight was not able to contain the Radiance, the Pale King resorted to his final plan. He fucked off.
It was a game that trusted its players, one that struck a near-perfect balance between risk and reward, teaching not through tutorials, but through failure, patterns, and quiet cues. And that was the essence of Hollow Knight. Game design at its purest. Show, don't tell. Feel, don't explain. Touches that elevated it from a great game into a masterpiece.
Right.
But there was something else that aided in Hollow Knight's popularity. Many of its mechanics, the exploration of its labyrinthine world and oppressive atmosphere, immediately drew comparisons to Dark Souls, gaining a reputation as a 2D Dark Souls. Although not directly inspired by it, despite some conflicting statements.
Maybe a bit of Dark Souls in there as well.
It tapped into the same inspirations, the classic Metroidvanias, cryptic storytelling, and demanding challenges through show but not tell. At a time when Souls-like was exploding in popularity, those comparisons only fueled its momentum. Soon, it became one of those games people wouldn't stop recommending. A cult hit that turned into a phenomenon through sheer word of mouth. Within months, Hollow Knight sold over 500,000 copies. By July 2018, after the Switch release, it had climbed past 1.2 million. By 2019, it was sitting at 2.8 million copies sold. And it wasn't just the sales. For only $15, Hollow Knight offered 20+ hours of polished, handcrafted content, underpriced even by indie standards.
I don't think we could think about charging more for it because it didn't cost us that much to make. And we just really wanted as many people to play it as we could.
That philosophy built enormous goodwill, cementing Team Cherry's reputation as one of the most trusted names in indie gaming. But they didn't stop there. In the months after release, Team Cherry kept supporting the game with free DLC packs, content that could have easily been sold, but instead expanded the game for free. The humbleness and honesty of Team Cherry never seems affected by success, mirroring the very design of Hollow Knight itself, simple in form, yet endlessly deep in execution.
Don't aim to make a massive game and then have it all fall over. What we did, and we think it's as successful, is we aim to make a very small game, a small Metroidvania, and then we had enough energy and budget, and we're enjoying it enough to allow it to expand, but at any time we could have stopped that development, packaged it up, and had a complete game.
And financially, the reward was enormous. Even after storefront cuts, Hollow Knight's success had turned Team Cherry into millionaires. Estimates put their revenue above $20 million by 2019, all from a budget of around $50,000. Yet, despite all the success, they didn't expand the studio, didn't hire dozens of new developers, sold their IP to the highest bidder, and didn't chase AAA ambition. They stayed grounded and independent. David Casey left shortly after release for a corporate programming job, and his role was filled by a new developer, Jack Vine. And that was it. The team remained tiny and united. Ari and William doubled down in a 2018 interview, making it clear they weren't chasing riches or even growth. Our goal was always to get ourselves into a position where we could just keep making stuff. And we are grateful we have gotten there thanks to everyone's support. Defining success back then was easy. It was just selling enough to be able to make another game. Had we achieved only that, we would have been happy. So they kept going, promising one more expansion, an ambitious DLC featuring the long-lost promise of a second playable character, Silk Song.
Right. Sorry, I'm trying to get this chat on the damn screen.
February 14, 2019, Team Cherry unveiled Hollow Knight Silk Song. Fans had been expecting a DLC, instead they got a full-blown sequel. Hornet finally playable, a brand new kingdom, Fairloom, over 150 new enemies, a faster, more agile combat system, and, in an unheard move, Kickstarter backers would get the sequel for free, despite not being crowdfunded at all. The goodwill couldn't have been higher, the excitement couldn't be bigger. Team Cherry, please take all my money at your earliest possible convenience. EA, the game is a DLC. Team Cherry, the DLC is a new game. That very same day, Ari and William posted a blog video explaining the transition from DLC to sequel and future
As
plans.
we sort of kept going and kicking around ideas, the idea of having Hornet go through an adventure in a whole new kingdom actually seemed like a really fun and interesting idea to us.
Way more fun.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was it's probably the biggest motivation was for us to be able to make a new game, a new world and stuff. And also now that it's out there, we can talk a bit more about it as well. So what we'd like to do is, as we go forward, just have some more kind of blog updates and stuff, and we'll show off some bits and pieces as we go through the year.
Well, that wasn't entirely true, because soon after, the long, mythical wait began. The next update came on June 25th, 2019, when Nintendo's booth at E3 featured Silksong gameplay, accompanied by a Kickstarter post titled Team Cherry checking in for a long past due Silksong development update. Hornet's speed and acrobatics were on full display, along with a fiery lava-themed area, cut concepts that had once been part of the original Hollow Knight.
So Hollow Knight Silksong is coming soon. Team Cherry are unfortunately not here. They're hard at work in Australia finishing the game, and hopefully we'll have some more updates soon, because this is just a taste and I need the entree now.
And we know it's going to be good.
Yeah, oh for sure.
Hollow Knight was a blast.
Yes.
But then came December 2019, Team Cherry holiday sign-off, a brief blog post wishing fans well, and then silence. The steady blog posts stopped, their YouTube channel went dark, no more updates. Overnight, Silksong went from being the hottest indie sequel on the horizon to gaming's biggest question mark, a stark contrast to the constant updates of their Kickstarter project, joining the cursed pantheon of Half-Life 3 and Bloodborne 2. Silksong, when Is It Even Real became the running joke, spamming every Nintendo Direct, every Game Awards, every Xbox and PlayStation showcase. A fan by the name Aurora, the legend himself, even launched a YouTube channel, Daily Silksong News. For over 1,500 consecutive videos, he checked in every day on whether there were any updates. Out of all of those uploads, only 48 actually had news.
Today is January 17th, 2021. This is Aurora, your host for today. There has been no news to report for Silksong today.
Reddit descended into madness, inventing silk posting, a mix of copium, news baits, clown memes predicting and hallucinating release dates that never came. And yet, there were breadcrumbs, tiny glimmers in the void. In February 2021, Silksong resurfaced on an Edge magazine cover story. It detailed new mechanics, areas, and Team Cherry's ongoing philosophy. But fans were starving. A year later, in March 2022, another crumb appeared in PC Gamer. Pelin reassured, "We are still working steadily on it, and we are all looking forward to sharing more about it once we get closer to release." June 2022, a miracle.
Yeah, boy.
A brand new Silksong trailer debuted at the Xbox showcase. Gameplay looked smoother than ever. The trailer racked up over 3 million views. Then came the bombshell. On Twitter, Xbox declared, "Everything you are seeing today is playable over the next 12 months. So you are telling me Silksong is out within the next 12 months? That's exactly what we said. This was it. But 12 months came and went, met only with silence. No Silksong. In May 2023, Team Cherry finally broke the ice. PR manager Matt Griffin clarified on Twitter, "We had plans to release in the first half of 2023, but development is still continuing. We are excited by how much the game is shaping up, and it's gotten quite big, so we want to take the time to make the game as good as we can." And those dreaded words, "Expect more details from us once we get closer to release." The copium flowed, next year for sure. February 2024, Valentine's Day. Matt popped into Discord with a tiny update. "Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. In case you are wondering, we are still hard at work on the game." That was it. By June 2024, it had been 729 days since Silksong's last proper showing. Hope wasn't dead, but insanity had set in. Reddit started evolving. Fans began tracking Team Cherry's Kickstarter logins. Updates had stopped entirely, so a single login became breaking news. Alerts went out in the middle of the night, hoping for a chance of an update. 2 Kickstarter logins in a week became an occasion for a thread. Through all of this madness, however, Hollow Knight itself was skyrocketing. The silence made marketing in itself. The endless hype around Silksong pushed the original into spotlight again and again, spreading by word of mouth. By 2025, Hollow Knight had sold over 15 million copies, likely putting it as the best-selling Metroidvania game of all time. This gave Team Cherry something precious: time. While the original took about 3 years to make, Silksong would end up stretching to nearly 7. And as they would only reveal much later to Bloomberg, this wasn't the result of development hell or some hidden crisis. "We've been having fun," said Gibson. "This whole thing is just a vehicle for our creativity anyway. It's nice to make fun things. It was always progressing. It's just the case that we are a small team, and games take a lot of time. There wasn't any big controversial moment behind it." Palin would add, "You are always working on a new idea. New item, new area, new boss. That stuff is so nice. It's for the sake of just completing the game that we are stopping. We could have kept going."
Oh, there it is.
There was no scandal, no crunch horror story. Much like us that play their games, they were just having fun. While leftover sandwiches and $20 handouts kept them afloat with Hollow Knight, this time Team Cherry had the privilege of working at their own pace. A privilege most AAA studios could never dream of. No publishers breathing down their necks, no shareholders demanding deadlines, just the freedom to pour years of care into their art. But for fans, all they had was silence. And so, the madness grew. January 2025. Cakegate. On Twitter, an account by the name Little Boomy had long been rumored to secretly
Alright, bet. I ain't gonna lie. I kind of stopped paying attention. I was trying to do the chat shit. But I got a good idea of what's going on or what happened. Cool. It looked like it'd be a fun game. Sound like, you know what I'm saying, the niggas that been waiting on this been waiting on it for a while. Even though I've seen it before, I just never knew, I never really like paid attention to it to the point of like I wasn't waiting with y'all niggas. So I'm privileged to be able to do that. Or to hop in, you know what I'm saying, when it's hot. But yeah, looks like we gonna get into it, man.